What is going on, Angelo family? Today we have the coolest car. I'm very excited to try it out. It is the Tesla Model 3 Performance 2024. So this car just came out and we are one of the first people to actually drive this car. So super excited to get our hands on it. Right now, the black version of the car, the red version of the car, the white version of the car, the blue version of the car. Right now, this car is about $56,000, I believe $55,000, and it does qualify for that EV rebate that we're seeing of $7,500, but you do need to get the base version of the car, which is kind of unfortunate because I like all the other colors of the car, and if you get those other colors, you might not get the EV rebate. So right now we have the gray version of the car. It's the free color with the all white seats. As you can see, the all white seats have the new badge associated with the car. I'm super excited to kind of just drive this car with that new badge. As you can see here, we have like that performance badge on the back of the car. It is similar to how the Model S had the plaid badge of the car. This has a performance badge with bucket seats. The bucket seats are very nice, very snug, very tight. Looks really cool. Also, the seats are they are similar, more similar to the Tesla Model S, which I've noticed is that because they're similar to the Model S seats, they have more of a sturdier fit and finish to it. I had the Model S long range, as you guys can see in the channel, and the seats are very more snug and finished. If you guys had previous Model 3s, previous Model Ys, previous versions of this car, they had this very kind of like marshmallowy feel seat type to it, so it was very kind of, it felt like you're sitting on a pillow or a cloud. But this, on the other hand, this car, it doesn't have that fit and finish. It's more like, it feels like more of a performance car. So your body, it's supposed to be more snug on the seats where you can actually feel the car. You can feel it like kind of hugging your body. And that's the kind of feel I get right now with this car, which I do enjoy a lot. I really like the fit and finish and feel to it. Overall, the car is a lot faster than the previous Model 3. I think you get 0 to 60 in about 3.1 or 2.9 seconds, so about 0.2 faster, which is really cool. And you have a all new, brand new updated interior. The mileage or range you're getting this is about 300 miles of range, which is about 60 miles less than your Model 3 long range rear wheel drive, or about 50 miles less than the long range or than just a normal long range for this new Model 3. So it is kind of interesting that you are sacrificing range for performance, but this car is super fast. Like, actually, like accelerating on this, you'll feel it a lot more than accelerating in your Tesla Model S long range, just because of how small this car is. The 3 is very zippy and it's very fast. Also, it's very easy to get around and park at different places. That's the one thing I like about the Model 3, is that it's easy to park. The Model S, it looks so cool, but the car is huge. Also, that Model S I have, I'm not on hardware 4. This car is on hardware 4, and honestly, I can really tell the difference between full self-driving with how good it is and how good it performs on full self-driving. So that's the one thing I do like about this car, is that the full self-driving does perform a lot better. Also, it is a lot it's a lot smoother on the suspension. Like, honestly, the suspension here feels a little better than the Model S suspension I usually have for my Model S long range, which is the refresh version, right? Even though the Model S long range is on a suspension that is an air suspension, this is Tesla's most updated suspension, where you can change it for the car, right? Previous Model 3s, they felt very bumpy suspension on the road, but this Model 3, like, it's night and day, and I really do enjoy this Model 3's kind of update on the suspension. Like, I think they did such a great job on it. So props Tesla on actually updating that and making it a lot more smoother of a suspension. One thing you'll notice too is that we have that red dot over here. That red dot turns on whenever you're trying to drive the car and you're driving the car and there's like someone on the left or right side of you. So you'll see that both on the left and right side of you whenever you're driving the car, which is pretty cool, because that was signaling like, hey, don't switch lanes, stay in this lane. And that is like another safety feature I wish my Tesla had. But I'm pretty sure if you have a Model 3 Highland refresh, like the rear wheel drive, that will also have that safety feature, which is pretty cool. And I think it really helps out, especially if you're driving extremely long distances and you're like trying to switch lanes. Also, it just feels safer with the car, right? It's kind of fascinating. Like, I was so interested in how like the hardware would perform. I mean, if you actually can tell the difference with the car, right? With the Model S refresh and with the Model 3 performance with regards to like the hardware. And yes, you do feel the difference. It's just in the performance of the car. It's like less choppy per se, because the Model S, which I have previously, it was very choppy with the full self-driving higher performance. This, you're on your newest hardware, you're on FSD for Tesla. They've released like their software updates for everything, and it's very, very impressive with how it performs. I actually truly kind of enjoy how it performs. And the one thing I do like realize too about this, what I've noticed about coming from previous Model 3s and Model Ys, is that the screen is laggy. Now I'm on a newer screen for the Tesla. I mean, it's like the newer hardware and newer chip within the car, and the screen is a lot less laggy, which I do enjoy, because it just makes the driving experience a lot more seamless, right? There'll be times where I'm clicking on the Tesla screen, and then as I'm clicking on the Tesla screen, the screen's kind of like lagging, overheat a ton. Right now, I can tell the difference between this car. The only kind of caveat and qualm I have with this car is that when you come from a Model S, it is very spacious, right? This car, I feel very cramped up and kind of tight in this car. Like, it feels a lot smaller because it is a smaller car, right? It's supposed to be a daily driver, family sedan, but it does feel a lot smaller. The Model S looks really cool. It also has a lot of space and room within the car, so you can kind of really tell the difference with how big the car is and how spacious the car is actually. So that's one thing qualm I have about the Model 3 performance. Overall, the speed is unbeatable, right? If I were to drive this car, like going on canyons, going on raceways, like as I did when I got the car, I was driving on like a lot of mountains and stuff. It was very, very smooth, and it was very zippy, which I really enjoyed. Because it was so zippy, I really enjoyed like how fast it would go, where it would go. Like, it felt like I was driving like a race car, to be quite frank with you. Model S, like, even though it's like just as fast as this Model 3, it was kind of like, it felt like the car just wanted to go straight because of how big of the body of the car it was. Like, it was just going straight, and it felt very like just zoom straight. And it was okay, like that was cool and all, but I didn't like how when it would just go straight, like I just felt like the car felt so heavy, right? It felt so heavy going straight. This car, a lot more zippier, a lot more fun to drive, and you don't really have to worry as much with how it parking is gonna go, right? Because the Model S, because it's such a bigger car, it felt like a giant boat. It was hard to park sometimes, hard to parallel park. This car, a lot smaller, and it like just goes so much faster. And I just love how it's performing right now in full self-driving. It just allows you to have like relax a lot more. With the Model S on that previous hardware, honestly I was kind of nervous, to be quite frank with you, like, oh man, how's it gonna perform? Is it gonna do a crazy lane change? But it's just performing a lot better. And with regards to like the wheel and how it turns, I'm like enjoying it a lot more, which is kind of crazy. Like, the only thing that sucks about driving this car compared to the other Model S is that the range isn't as high. Like, my range here is about 300 compared to my Model S, which is at 410, and after degradation I'm like at 380 right now, as I said in the channel. But this range, I think if you go for the Model 3 long range rear wheel drive, and you get like 380 or 365 of range, that's perfect, because you don't want to be driving too much, right? And that car is pretty cool. You can honestly just lease that for 2 years, 3 years, and then you should be good to go, and you won't have to worry too much about the car. But overall, this is like a great daily driver for the car itself. So I want to show you guys like the seats. Right now we are on full self-driving, and I'm just very impressed with how it performs. You can be hands-free on full self-driving now. You just have to Put your hands here. Make sure you're staring at the road. When you stare at the road, it has attention-based monitoring, and attention-based monitoring tells you, okay, this person's paying attention to the road. We can continue full self-driving, as opposed to previous versions of the car where you always have to nudge the wheel, and you're like, I bet I'll be nudging the wheel hella, and it's kind of annoying, especially on long road trips. So here's the car itself. I'm gonna show you guys just from my front view. Okay, so as you can see here, we do have the new updated seats perforated. So as you can see, you do have heating and cooling. When it comes to heating, it's just like this slow, small burst of air for your car, and it makes it colder as you're driving the car. We do have the new badge. This is the performance badge. I think it looks really cool. It makes the car look different from the interior, which is like the biggest update of the car. You have this new wheel over here. This new wheel is testing new wheel, similar to the Model S's and Model S's and X's, is that you no longer have stocks. And because there's no longer stocks, you don't have to like flick everything up and down. You get auto shift forward, auto shift reverse out of park, and you just use the screen as your main kind of control system. I know most people won't like that. Like, man, I miss having my stocks. I miss being able to shift and reverse on a whim. Now you're like, okay, I can get used to this. This is pretty chill. This is pretty cool. I enjoy shifting in and out of reverse. This is cars. I'll get used to it, right? Because at first I honestly did not like it. It was just like too much for me. I was like, man, I hate shifting in and out of reverse. This is kind of annoying. But I've come to really love and enjoy it. You do get a new kind of center console here. Center console is really nice. It's similar like look and feel to the previous one, but it goes forward and it has like this really cool material. I enjoy this a lot more. Cup holder is pretty much the same, and then as you can see, I'll show you guys the back a little later. But the back, you do have that screen now where it's similar to Model S and X, where your passengers can control the back seat, music, air, ventilation, everything of that nature on the back seat, which is really cool about the car. And one of my favorite things about the car is you do have accent lights. So if we can go in here, we'll go into lights, and as you can see, there's new accent lights. You can just turn them on. As you turn them on, you can change the color of the accent lights. So here you change the color like this, and all the colors will change for the accent lights, which is pretty freaking cool. I like keeping it blue or red, or if you want it kind of white, you get white color, which is nice too. For me, I'm gonna keep it with the red because I like it. It gives me that Star Wars feel and vibe to the car, which is what I kind of enjoy with the car, right? So overall, do I like the Model 3 performance compared to the Model S? Yes, 100%. It's just the only thing is the size. I don't like the size of the car, right? But overall, like the fit, finish, feel of the car, the suspension feels really nice. And honestly, I think if you get a Model 3 long range rear wheel drive, you'll be pretty happy with it, right? Because you get the $7,500 rebate. The car feels awesome, like where you don't have to worry about just like the hardware performance, like because I've had previous Model 3s and Model Ys, and they're great at the time, but then if you drive this car a ton, you can definitely feel the improvement in the car itself, which is pretty awesome. So that's one thing you need to keep in mind about these cars. I've honestly been a person who always switches their car, and I wish I more so just leased the car, because there's always new versions of the car coming out, and that's kind of for me, I don't care much about owning the car. Maybe just have one car you own for forever, and then you always just keep leasing brand new cars if that's who you are. But I really like this. Another thing about this car is that you do have new door opening and closing, so you just press this button, open and close the door. The interior is brand new. It's all kind of white here on the side. As you can tell, if you get the black seats, you will have a more black interior, which is it's interesting, it's cool, but I actually like this a little bit better. The car itself, very fun, very fast car. Your pedals are the same. I've noticed that they kept the same kind of pedals with the car, so you still have the same performance pedals with the car. And overall, it's a little they kept a lot of things similar with like the car itself. But I'm gonna go outside now and show you guys outside and exterior of the car, so you guys can get a better feel of all the updates they did to the Model S, or sorry, the Model 3 performance. And guys, keep in mind, I came from the Model 3 Performance 2021 with the Uber turbine wheels. I love the interior, I love the exterior, I thought it looked so cool, but the only thing about that was the suspension was extremely bumpy. This suspension, night and day difference, a lot smoother. They changed it a lot. Also, I want to keep you guys know that the cabin is so quiet, guys. Like previous Model 3s is super loud inside the car. Now extremely quiet within the cabin. I'm super impressed with it, with the cabin itself. So the cabin noise not as existent anymore, and it just feels so much quieter in here. So pretty great kind of car, and I appreciate the whole vibe of it. So it's pretty exciting. So overall, city streets, the car is performing really well. I've noticed it performs better on city streets compared to freeway because of how I guess less crazy it is on the city streets. But like you stay in the lanes a little bit more. You're not trying to make as much erratic lane changes, because when you're definitely on the freeway, you're always making a ton of lane changes, which is kind of like a little tricky, especially when you're driving a ton, right? I noticed the car, it's very great suspension, and it does like switch lanes a ton on the freeway, and I don't enjoy that because it gets pretty scary, to be quite frank with you, right? You're always switching lanes, like and then you don't know if you're gonna switch and hit a car, and that's what's very, very scary about the car. But suspension in the whole street driving is very smooth, right? It's super nice. Like you don't have crazy bumps on the road, so it's definitely on smoother roads like you drive on, it doesn't feel as bumpy, and you feel very like you're in a luxury car and luxury sedan. You feel honestly similar to the same suspension you have on the Model S and X, which is a good thing, right? Because those are supposed to be air suspension, so they're supposed to be the most comfortable suspension. The Model 3 and Y are supposed to share the same suspension, as well as similar body to the car. So when you go on the Model Y that's about to come out, the Model Y Juniper, which we're gonna get on the channel for sure, it's supposed to have the same suspension, right? I have a Model Y Performance, and the Model Y Performance is extremely bumpy, right? It's a very, very bumpy car, and it's just super annoying because you're always like, it shakes a ton, and you get annoyed with how it's performing. But for me, I'm very impressed with this car, right? It doesn't have as many bumps. It doesn't have as many crazy like shakes with the car. So that's a very good thing about the Model 3 Highland and the Model 3 Performance, right? Usually in the performance vehicle, you're gonna get a very bumpy suspension because it's supposed to feel like a sports car, so you're supposed to feel the road more. But for this car, you can actually switch the suspension. It's really cool. It allows you to switch from sport to standard, or standard to sport, right? So if you want to feel the roads, if you want to feel like lots of bumps and just feel like the car is going as quick as you can, heavy handling, then go for sport. If you want a very smooth suspension on this car, then go for the what's it called, the sport version of it. All right, guys, so I'm driving Tesla right now on full self-driving, and I still notice some crazy bugs with the car where the car will try and switch 4 lanes at once to get to the exit, and it's very dangerous, and it's actually very, very scary. Right now we're coming up on a giant kind of truck here, and it's trying to beat the truck, and it's dangerous. I'm obviously gonna lose against the truck, so I need the car to slow down. So I took over right now and began switching lanes myself. So you do need to pay attention to the car. There is still some bugs with the car, and honestly, it was going to try and overtake the car, and it was just going to be very dangerous. So I did not want the car to do that, and I could have gotten in an accident, to be quite frank with you. So we're just going to allow ourselves to take over for the vehicle and drive. So you do notice that there are still a lot of bugs with the car, with regards to how it drives, how it performs, as well as switching lanes. So keep in mind, it is kind of dangerous to switch lanes in your Tesla if you allow it to just go rogue from time to time, right? This isn't like a Waymo where I think they've made it much more safe for people. You still need to pay attention with how you're driving the car, with how it's performing, where it turns, and you need to be more cognizant of it because you could get in an accident, right? And usually whenever your Tesla does something crazy, it'll just start kind of going, duh, 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 have like a lot of sounds, and it'll just air out, and then you gotta take over immediately. And that can be very dangerous because yes, it can air out and then you take over, but what if you're not paying attention? What if it airs out and the car hits you? So it is very dangerous to use full self-driving and not pay attention to the road. So I'm glad we paid attention there. We were not gonna overtake that semi truck. So I'm glad we're okay there, especially with the whole Tesla being a dangerous car if you're on full self-driving and you're not paying attention. So, but overall, it does feel like it's a great car. Just pay attention to the road when you're on full self-driving because it is not perfect yet. All right, guys, so now we're going to show you guys the charging of the car and how it performs. This is the Model 3 Performance 2024, right? And as you can see, we have these aero wheels, so it's supposed to make the car more efficient. This is a version 3 charger, so it should get you that full kind of 250 miles of charge kilowatt hours, so it gets to almost 1,000, around 997 miles per hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this. As you can see, it has that cool, sleek Model 3 Performance little charge where it lifts it up. You're going to plug it in. You're going to see how it charges within this Model 3 2024 kind of performance Highland version of it. So let's see how fast we get. So we're supercharging now, and let's see how it performs. We're going to go charge it now. 158 kilowatt hours. Hopefully we can get to that full 200 kilowatt hours, and then 999 or around 997 miles of charge. But right now we're at 19% state of charge. It did precondition the battery to charge fast, so let's see how fast it can go. Overall, like, you do want to drain your battery down to about, like, say 20% or so, and then you want to supercharge. This will allow for much faster charging. That's what I've kind of noticed with the car. So if you do drain the battery a ton, we're at like 60 miles right now, so let's flip it back to percentage. It should get to your destination charge a lot quicker. So I always like to drain the battery a ton to supercharge the car. So what we're gonna do now is, while this car is supercharging, let me show you the interior of the car. So you might be wondering how I like the bucket seats right now. The bucket seats are a great touch to the car. So if you guys are curious, only the Model 3 Performance 2024 has these bucket seats. You'll see these bucket seats a lot in like sports cars, maybe like an M car for BMW, as well as like the Type R for the Honda Civic, which is pretty cool. And it just sets it apart from all the normal seats that you usually get for your Tesla Performance, right? So if you've ever seen the 2018 Tesla Model 3 Performance, the only real difference was they had red brake calipers, right? As well as sometimes, if you got a little bit later, you had like dark gray rims for the car. So the rims are dark gray. It's supposed to be like more of a gunmetal type of color. And then if you get the Uber turbine wheels, which is the 2021 version, of course you'll have a refreshed Model 3 Performance, and you get red brake calipers, as well as, oh man. All right, guys, continuing to drive on full self-driving, it is pretty fun. Like, I'm enjoying it. Like, it's going pretty quick. The drive itself, it's allowing me to just chill on the road, you know, never having to worry about, oh, how fast are we going. We're going on a steady 85, and I'm starting to notice that the car does a better job with slowing down when there's oncoming traffic ahead. You used to have a big issue where you're just driving straight forward, and as you're driving straight forward, the car just breaks out of nowhere, or the car just doesn't see the car up front, and it'll just stop, and you stop abruptly, and then your whole body goes forward, and it's just like very unpleasant drive because of how inaccurate the whole driving is within the car. So I want to show you guys that hardware forward has truly improved the car, right? Right now, I'm using the car as like a daily driver of some way. I'm not racing it at all. I'm not drifting the car at all. I'm just trying to experience the Model 3 the Model 3 Performance from a kind of perspective of, this is your daily driver. You're driving to and from work. Maybe your commute is 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, and you gotta go to your location. Overall, car is performing great. My only qualm is that if you have this car as a daily driver, you need to have a charger for this car at your home or wherever you may be. The reason being is that this Model 3 Performance is about a 300-mile range, right? I know for a fact after about 50,000 miles you will experience degradation, so you go down to 270 or so, and that is a big chunk of the battery lost because of the whole degradation of the battery and you driving in time. So I recommend, if you do get this car, you need to get full self-driving as a daily driver kind of thing. It feels really great. Actually, just a little maybe, but you definitely need to get a charger for the car. You need to be able to charge at home, like be able to have that NEMA the NEMA outlet, so you can charge your car, and that way when you wake up at night after 8 hours of sleep, you get around 240 or so miles of range. You're good to go for the next day, especially if you are using this as a daily driver to work and if you have a commute. Otherwise, you'll have to stop at a supercharger, and we all know that gets busy. We all know the pricing tends to vary and fluctuate depending on what time of the day it is. So just keep that in mind whenever you're going to get this car, right? I have driven the long range rear-wheel drive as well as the performance. Performance is by far more fun to drive if you like driving the car normally. It's a really great fun car. It looks really cool. I'll show you guys the exterior, and it's just a very fun car to drive. But when you're driving the car for a long road trip, you will have to stop more often. That's the only thing I don't like about this car, right? And this car can be a road trip car, but it also will be a car where you're going to have to make sure you charge it on a nightly basis if you have a significantly long commute. If you work across the street from your house, 5, 10, 20 minute drive, you probably want to charge it once a week, which is nice. And you can even go on the slow charge because you're not driving too far. But if you have a long commute, about an hour commute to work because of traffic, and then another hour back, then you do want to go with a longer range car. And it's not a bad thing because the Model 3 long range rear wheel drive is about $40,000 after tax. Compared to this is $56,000 bought brand new. And you save about $16,000, you get an immense amount of range. Your 0-60 is like almost 4 seconds or so, and you still get to drive a really fun, great technological car where you get full self-driving, same hardware. The only thing really different is that the car is a little faster, has an extra motor, the brakes a little bit bigger, and then you have some carbon fiber around the car. So that's the one thing about this car. You get red brake calipers as well as Uber turbine wheels, right? And your tires are on Pirelli P0 tires. So you have a more kind of sports look for the car. The turbine wheels are a lot bigger. You're supposed to have a harder suspension because it's supposed to be a sports car, and I thought they looked great. I thought they were the best looking wheels on the Tesla, to be quite frankly. Most people didn't like this. They look like a giant fan. I like that look. So that's one thing about the car you're gonna get, is that when you have Uber turbine wheels, it's more like a bumpy suspension, very fast when it comes to the red brake when it comes to the car itself. Brake calipers are red, and you do drive a lot faster because your 0-60 is 3.1 seconds compared to if you got a long range at 4 seconds 0-60, right? So a little bit slower. Also, you don't have as fast of a kind of you have a much faster kind of get off within the car, right? So that's a little difference between the Model 3 and Performance 2021, 2018, right? The crazy thing about those performances that I've been seeing, if you go for the 2021 version, I got it for like, I think around $65,490 was like what the price was back in the day, which is crazy. Now it's only, $56,490. Now you can get used 2021 for about 25 grand, 22 grand. It's a really great car, right? But that's the performance version of it too. So these cars right now, this car is about $56,000. Just know in 3 years Tesla's gonna make a new one. It's gonna drop a lot more, and you will kind of lose a majority of your money. So if you do go with these cars, maybe it's best to just lease them so you keep trading in. Or if you do get them, maybe you buy it used 3 years later. That way you get this car variant. Or if you do get it, maybe you buy you just buy it forever. It's like your forever car, so that way you're not losing money. Unless you have the money to spend, then by all means go for it. That's the one thing with these performance cars, is that they are super bumpy on the suspension. They are very cool to look at on the outside because they look more aggressive than the other Model 3s. But these are probably my favorite kind of versions of the Model 3 because of how nice of a look it is, right? You don't get it for the suspension, you don't get it for the long range, you get it for the speed, right? If you love to drive kind of quick up the line, 0 to 60 at 3.1 seconds is a lot, very, very quick. It's almost like Bugatti speed, which is freaking crazy to get for a normal car like anyone can just buy. But that's the electric motor within the car. Also, the one thing that's cool about these Teslas is that the technology is insane. Like, you get so many great features with the technology, especially with the new Model 3s that have come out, because you have the latest hardware, and their performance on the self-driving software is night and day difference. Like, you can honestly tell the difference between this performance with the software itself. So I kid you not, guys, like, I'm a huge fan of this Model 3 performance and the software you get from it. So you guys won't be disappointed with the new hardware 4, right? And I've come from every renditions from it. I've had the full self-driving software on version hardware 3 with my Model Y, 3.5 with my Model S, and now version 4 with the Tesla Model 3 Performance 2024, right? I can tell the huge difference. And honestly, it's a lot more affordable than $99 for full self-driving is a good deal, especially, and you get this cool performance car, right? You can't really lose. It's like a win-win with this car, which I really like, enjoy, and I'm very kind of blessed and thankful for you to experience it. Would go with the performance if I want this just to be a fun car that I drive extremely fast to and from work, have a shorter commute. If I want a car for, say, commuting very far or for long road trips, definitely with the Model 3 rear-wheel drive long range, because of the smooth suspension, because of the quiet cabin, and that 360 or so miles of range. People are saying, actually, when they drive that car, usually you get 70% of that, so around like 300 miles of range. But people are getting more. Some people are almost getting 400 miles of range on that Model 3 rear-wheel drive. For those people who are commuting pretty far, that's really good. I'm actually very impressed by that because of the whole how crazy it is with Teslas. Like, even my Model S 2021 2022 long range, it gets only about 70% of the expected range, but off a 380 mile range, that's more than enough, because I need to take breaks whenever I go on long road trips. Also, it's very spacious. But this car, it does feel like a performance car. It does feel super grippy when you're going quick, 0 to 60. At 60 to 100, you can definitely feel that increase in speed compared to previous models of the car. Like 0 to 60, higher Model 3 performance per hour 2021, felt similar, felt the same at 0 to 60. This one still feels pretty similar, pretty the same with the 0 to 60, about 3.1 seconds. But that 60 to 100, I definitely feel the increase in that. I definitely feel the change in the suspension in this car, where it's much smoother. My Model 3 Performance was extremely bumpy because of the sports performance of the car, so the suspension was a little bit bumpier. Also, it was very prone to getting potholes. That's the one thing I didn't like about that car. A lot of potholes with that car because it's such a low profile to the car. This car, I'm pretty sure you'll probably get potholes too, which is the one unfortunate thing. And if you replace the tires on this car, the Pirelli P0 tires, you're looking at $450 or so per tire. So it's very expensive tires. That's the only thing that's unfortunate about this car, is that you do have to pay more for a nice sport rims or sport tires. So I would go with the cheaper tire if I was you, but to each their own. For me, I enjoyed this car because of the look on it. The hardware has improved for me, for sure, with the red dot whenever you're trying to switch lanes. The hardware for the Tesla full self-driving has improved a lot, as well as I really like the interior. The interior is super nice within the car. Also, it feels a lot faster within this car, so it is a ton of fun to drive this car. Model 3 Performance is a good car. It's a really good car. It's a good daily driver car if you want to drive to and from work. You want to drive quickly. It's a lot of fun. Well, you got to keep in mind that the car is a performance car, so you will have a bumpier suspension compared to long range rear-wheel drive, right? Just keep that in mind. This is also because their tires are bigger. I believe it's 21 inches for this tire on the rims in the car and the tires. If you're to switch to a 19-inch, which you can switch to 19-inch with this car. You just have to pay for new rims and tires. It will be a lot smoother, probably $2,000 though, and you will still have that same performance. So keep that in mind. Now that's one thing I've kind of realized with these cars. I have a long-range Model S with the Arachnid wheels, 21 inches, I believe, and it was very, very bumpy, smooth, and bumpy suspension and ride because of how big the rims were. Switched over to a more kind of smaller rims and smaller tires. It's been a lot smoother driving, which I truly enjoy about the car. So just kind of keep that in mind whenever you are picking a car. Like, do you want a smoother suspension? Do you want more range? So think about what is beneficial for you and your car. Smooth range or smooth suspension, just longer range, go with the long range. You save $16,000, $14,000. You want the car to look cool, you want the performance feel, pay that extra $14,000 and go with the long range, or go with the Model 3 performance, and you won't be disappointed. Look at the interior, it's so much nicer.